Continuing with The Sword in the Stone, Chapter 22. King Pellinore arrived for the important weekend in a high state of flurry. "I say," he exclaimed, "do you know? Have you heard? Is it a secret, what?" "Is what a secret, what?" they asked him. "Why, the king!" cried his majesty. "You know about the king?" "What's the matter with the king?" inquired Sir Ector. "You don't say he's coming down to hunt with those damn hounds of his or anything like that. He's dead!" cried King Pellinore tragically. "He's dead, poor fella, and can't hunt any more." Sir Grummore stood up respectively and took off his helm. "The king is dead," he said. "Long live the king." Everybody else felt that they ought to stand up too, and the boy's nurse burst into tears. There, she sobbed. "His Royal Highness dead and gone, and him such a respectful gentleman. Many's the illuminated picture I've cut out of him from the illuminated missil's eye, and stuck it up over the mantel. From the time when he was in swaddling bands right through them world towers, till he was a-visiting the dispirited areas, as the world's Prince Charming, there wasn't a picture of him I had it out, and give him a last thought o' nights." "Compose yourself, Nanny," said Sir Ector. "It's solemn, isn't it?" said King Pellinore. "What?" "A solemn moment," replied Sir Grummore. "The king is dead. Long live the king." "We ought to pull down the blinds," said Kay, who was always a stickler for good form, "or half-mast the banners." "That's right," said Sir Ector. "Somebody go tell the sergeant-at-arms." It was obviously the Wart's duty to execute this command, for he was now the junior of all the noblemen present, and so he ran out cheerfully to find the sergeant. Soon those who were left in the salar could hear a voice crying out, "Now then, 1, 2, special morning for it, thy majesty, lower away on thy command, 2. And then the flapping of all the standards, banners, pennons, pennoncelles, banderoles, guidons, streamers, cognizans, which made gay the snowy turrets of the Forest Sauvage. "How did you hear?" asked Sir Ector. "I was just picking through the purlieus of the forest after the beast, you know, when I met with a solemn friar of orders grey, and he told me it's the very latest news." "Poor old Pendragon," said Sir Ector. "The king is dead," said Sir Grummore solemnly. "Long live the king." "It's all very well for you to keep on mentioning that, my dear Grummore," exclaimed Sir Pellinore petulantly. "But who is the king? Who is the king, what, that is to live so long, what, according to you?" "What is heir?" said Sir Grummore, rather taken aback. "Our blessed monarch," said the nurse tearfully, "never had no heir. Anybody that studied the royal family knowed that." "Good gracious!" exclaimed Sir Ector. "But he must have had a next of kin." "That's just it," cried King Pellinore in high excitement. "That's the exciting part about it, what? No heir, no hair, and no next of skin. And who's to succeed to the throne? That's what my friar was so excited about, what? And why he was asking who could succeed to what? What? "Do you mean to tell me," exclaimed Sir Grummore indignantly, "that there ain't no King of England?" "Not a scrap of one," cried King Pellinore, feeling most important. "And there have been signs and wonders of no mean merit." "I think it's a scandal," said Sir Grummore. "God knows what the dear old country is coming to. It's these Bolshevists, no doubt." "What sort of signs and wonders?" asked Sir Ector. "Well, there has appeared a sort of sword in a stone, what, in a sort of church, not in the church, you see, what I mean, and not in the stone, but that sort of thing, what like you might say." "I don't know what the church is coming to," said Sir Grummore. "It's in an anvil," explained the king. "The church? No, the sword." "But I thought you said the sword was in the stone." "No," said King Pellinore, "the sword is outside the church." "Look here, Pellinore," said Sir Ector. "You have a bit of a rest, old boy, and start again. Here, Drink up this horn of mead and take it easy. The sword, said King Pellinore, is stuck through an anvil which stands on a stone. It goes right through the anvil and into the stone. The anvil is stuck to the stone. The sword stands outside a church. Give me more mead. I don't think that's much of a wonder, remarked Sir Grummore. What I wonder is that they should allow such things to happen. But you can't tell nowadays, what with all these socialists. My dear fellow, cried Pellinore, getting excited again. It's part where the stone is, what I'm trying to tell you. But what's written on it? What, where it is? What? Why, on its pommel. Come on, Sir Pellinore, said Sir Ector. You just sit still with your face to the wall for a minute, and then tell us what you were talking about. Take it easy, old fruit. No need for hurrying. You sit and look at the wall, there's a good chap, and talk as slow as you can. There are words written on this sword outside this church, said King Pellinore piteously, and these words are as follows. Oh, do try to listen to me, you two, instead of interrupting all the time about nothing, for it makes a man's head go ever so. What are the words? Asked Kay. These words say this, said King Pellinore, so far as I can understand from that old friar of Orders Grey. Go on, do, said Kay, and the king, for the king had come to a halt. Go on, said Sir Ector. What do the words on the sword, on this anvil, on this stone outside the church say? Some red propaganda, no doubt, remarked Sir Grummore. King Pellinore closed his eyes tight, extended his arms in both directions, and announced in capital letters, Whoso pulleth out this sword of this stone and anvil is rightwise born King of all England. Who said that? Asked Sir Grummore. But the sword said it, like I tell you. Talkative weapon, remarked Sir Grummore skeptically. It is written on it, cried the king angrily, written on it in letters of gold. Why didn't you pull it out then? Asked Sir Grummore. But I tell you that I wasn't there. All this I am telling you was told to me by the friar that I was talking of, that I was telling you of, like I tell you. Has this sword with this inscription been pulled out? Inquired Sir Ector. No, whispered King Pellinore dramatically. That's where the whole excitement comes in. They can't pull the sword out at all, although they have been trying like fun, and so they have had to proclaim a tournament all over England for New Year's Day, so the man who comes to the tournament and pulls out the sword can be King of England forever, what I say. Oh, father, cried Kay, the man who pulls out that sword of the stone will be the King of England. Can't we go to this tournament, father, and have a shot? Couldn't think of it, said Sir Ector. Long way to London, said Sir Grummore, shaking his head. My father went there once, said King Pellinore. Kay said, Oh, surely we could go. When I am knighted, I shall have to go to a tournament somewhere, and this one happens to be just the right date. All the best people will be there, and we should see the famous knights and great kings. It doesn't matter about the sword, of course, but think of the tournament, probably the greatest there's ever been in England, and all the things we should see and do. Dear father, let me go to this tourney, if you love me, so that I may bear away the prize of all in my maiden fight. But Kay, said Sir Ector, I have never been to London. All the more reason to go. I believe that anybody who doesn't go for a tournament like this will be proven that he has no noble blood in his veins. Think of what people will say about us if we don't go and have a shot at that sword. They will say that the Sir Ector family was too vulgar and knew it had no chance. We all know the family has no chance, said Sir Ector. That is, for the sword. Lots of people in London, remarked Sir Grummore with a wild surmise. So they say. He took a deep breath and goggled at his host with eyes like marbles. And the shops? Said King Pellinore, suddenly also beginning to breathe heavily. Dang it! Cried Sir Ector, bumping his horn mug on the table so that it spilled. Let's all go to London, then, and see the new king. They rose up as one man. And why shouldn't I be as good a man as my father? Exclaimed King Pellinore. Dash it all! Cried Sir Grummore. After all, damn it all, it is the capital. Hooray! Cried Kay. Lord have mercy! Cried the nurse. At this moment, the work came in with Merlin, and everybody was too excited to notice that, If he had not now been grown up, he would have been on the verge of tears. "Oh, Wart!" cried Kay, forgetting for the moment that he was only addressing his squire and slipping back into the familiarity of their boyhood. "What do you think? We are all going to London for a great tournament on New Year's Day." "Are we?" "Yes, and you will carry my shield and spears for the jousts, and I shall win the palm of everybody and be a great knight." "Well, I'm glad we are going," said the wart, "for Merlin is leaving us too." "Oh, we shan't need Merlin." "He is leaving us," repeated the wart. "Leaving us?" said Sir Ector. "I thought that it was we that were leaving." "He is going away from the Forest Sauvage." Sir Ector said, "Oh, come now, Merlin, what's all this about? I don't understand all this a bit." "I have come to say good-bye, Sir Ector," said the old magician. "Tomorrow my pupil Kay will be knighted, and the next week my other pupil will go away as his squire. I have outlived my usefulness here, and it is time to go." "Now, don't say that," said Sir Ector. "I think you're a jolly useful chap, whatever happens. You just stay here and teach me, or be the librarian or something. Don't you leave an old man alone after the children have flown." "We shall all meet again," said Merlin. "There is no cause to be sad." "Don't go," said Kay. "I must go," replied their tutor. "We have had a good time while we were young, but it is the nature of time to fly. There are many things in other parts of the kingdom which I ought to be attending to just now, and it is a specially busy time for me. Come, Archimedes, say good-bye to the company." "Good-bye," said Archimedes tenderly to the wart. "Good-bye," said the wart, without looking up at all. "But you can't go," cried Sir Ector, "not without a month's notice." "Can't I?" replied Merlin, taking up the position he always assumed by philosophers who proposed to dematerialize. He stood on his toes, while Archimedes held tight on his shoulder, began to spin on, and then slowly, like a top, spun faster and faster until he was only a blur of grayish light, and in a few seconds there was no one there at all. "Good-bye, wart!" cried two faint voices outside the Solar window. "Good-bye," said the wart for the last time, and the poor fellow went quietly out of the room. And that is the end of chapter 22.